Okay, so yeah, I didn't see game night until today, which is Saturday. Uh, basically, the one screening there was on Friday I could have gotten to was just not a good time for me at all. So I said, well, I was going to put the video up on Saturday, so I'll see it on Saturday. Anyway, the film Game Night revolves around Max, who's Jason Bateman, and Annie, who's Rachel McAdams, who meet at a barroom trivia game and fall in love, basically over their mutual competitive streaks. As their relationship progresses, we see them playing various games until the point where Max eventually proposes during a game of charades. At this point, we jump ahead about a year or two later, and they have a weekly game night with their friends, and they're also the other subplot between the two characters is that they are trying to conceive a child, but there's some problems. Though Max has a proper sperm count, they don't seem to be as motivated to do anything, and Annie chalks this up to Max feeling inferior to his brother Brooks, who is the Kyle Chandler character, who is a venture capitalist who struck it big by investing very early on in Panera. Anyway, also there's Jesse Plemons, not Matt Damon, as I kind of thought, because, dang, I guess look, I didn't watch the Friday Night Lights series, and I've never watched Fargo, the series on FX. So, yeah, I didn't know that apparently there's this guy who's this dead ringer for Matt Damon named Jesse Plemons. But he plays Gary, the police officer neighbor, who is never invited to game night anymore because basically he's really creepy. He was married to a woman named Debbie, they got divorced, and Gary basically just got froze out. However, the Max and Annie do have a regular group who are, Ryan, Kevin and Michelle, and Kevin and Michelle, they're the two African Americans. Ryan, who's kind of this doofy, kind of bro douchey guy, excuse me, who they sort of rib over his taste in women. Basically, he always goes for the airhead models. Basically, they play the whole time. They spend the whole night. They play Scrabble and then Trivial Pursuit, and it's this point that Brooks shows up, and he's a little stonk, and he's in what turns out to be Max's dream car, which is a 1976 cherry red Corvette Stingray. And anyway, Brooks comes in and he just starts dominating the game night. Max can't even get anything to go for him. And as everything ends and people are going home, Brooks suggests that he hosts the game night next week. And this is what you see in the trailer. They basically the next week goes by, and Brooks says, "Okay, this is the plot for game night. It's a murder mystery simulation. I hired a company called Murder We Wrote basically one of us is going to get kidnapped, and you have to find them, and the rest of the people will have to find them to avoid them being murdered, and whoever wins gets the keys to the Stingray." To pass the time before the kidnapping goes on, they start playing this drinking game, which leads into another subplot, which is Kevin and Michelle's, where they're playing a game of I have never, or I would never, and they during a point the topic comes up, I have never had sex with a celebrity, and Michelle takes a drink, and Kevin and Michelle had been together since like middle school. They're the childhood sweethearts who got married very young, and they exactly, he starts going like, wait, you slept with a celebrity? Who? Wait, when? Huh? And that's going on there, and that's their subplot. Basically, it's revealed that she slept with Denzel Washington, except she then shows a picture of her with Denzel Washington, and it's not Denzel Washington. It's some guy who kind of looks like Denzel Washington, except his nose is like way too big. Like his nose is really flat, and it just goes like all the way to the edge of his cheeks. It's like, yeah, that's not Denzel Washington. I was like, Yeah, so that's their plot. Anyway, Ryan has a new girlfriend. The first game night, he had a girl named Michelle with him, who is a ditzy, blonde airhead who was working for, I think it was Sephora. And anyway, the next week he has this Irish woman named Sarah with him, who apparently was a pity date. He thinks he's pitying her on the date, but she's actually pitying him. At this point, though, is when the break-in occurs and the kidnapping happens. They receive a message from an Agent Henderson, played by Jeffrey Wright. Agent Henderson of the FBI. There's been several high-profile kidnappings in the area. He gives these little folders full of clues to follow, riddles to follow along, and then the break-in occurs. Except it's not the staged kidnapping; it's an actual kidnapping, and everyone believes it to be staged. So they start playing the game. Max and Andy kind of go on to their own. They're like, "Wait, we could do our own thing here," and track Brooks's phone because he had it on him. Ryan and Sarah also go into their own, and they go to the company murder we wrote to figure out, like, okay, so what's the big last, to extract information to find out what the last clue is to solve everything. Meanwhile, Kevin and Michelle actually just play the game, and they get locked in a room by Ryan. And as this sort of progresses, they begin to piece together that it's real because Agent Henderson, Jeffrey Wright's character, wakes up and explains, no, that wasn't supposed to happen. Why would I knock myself out for an hour and a half? And at this point, the reenactors arrive, and that's when Kevin and Michelle piece together what happened. Ryan and Sarah do so because Kevin and Michelle call them. And Max and Annie figure it out when they locate where Brooks is in this dingy bar, and Annie, thinking she has a fake gun in her hand, accidentally shoots Max in the arm. Again, this is what you see in the trailer. They manage to free Brooks, and they get into their car, and they're driving off. And Brooks basically reveals that, no, he's not a venture capitalist, he's actually a smuggler. And what happened was he'd stolen a very rare Fabergé egg for a Bulgarian mobster, except at the last minute he sold it to a different guy, and now the Bulgarian mobster wants his money back and the egg. Yeah. It's actually a lot funnier than I'm making it sound. Basically, after that, more shenanigans ensue. Brooks eventually kind of gives himself back up to the kidnappers because he realizes that Max and Annie are not going to escape this. He doesn't want them to get hurt. Brooks later reveals that he spent most of his life cheating whenever he competed with Max because Brooks is the one who actually felt inferior. And the other subplot is, again, the whole baby thing. It's not Max's competitive streak, it's that he doesn't want to lose game night because there were a couple other friends who had kids and they've been kind of frozen out and they don't see them as often. And he's afraid, like, we're gonna not be that, and we're not gonna have fun anymore. Yeah, again, that is one of the weaker points of the movie. There's a lot of good, strong performances throughout this. Bateman, Chandler, McAdams are all really good. Let's see, Magnuson, I forget what his first name is. Is it Matt Magnuson? Eric Magnuson as Ryan is pretty good at just being this very aloof dope. Anyway, they manage to, the game night crew manages to reconvene. They go to the house of the guy who Brooks sold the Fabergé egg to. And it's there that they just, this is where the other payoff joke happens. Early on in the film, in an attempt to make small talk, Ryan makes a note about an article he read that wealthy industrialists are holding underground fight clubs where they take poor people and basically pay them a bunch of money to fight each other. And everyone says, that's the stupidest thing, that doesn't happen. And they go to the house, and it turns out, yes, it is an underground fight club being held. Ryan manages to steal the egg through some shenanigans. They all eventually manage to get it out. They play basically hot potato with it. Ryan tackles a guy, tackles one of the poor fighters, basically the bum fighters. That's what it is, basically bum fights. And they're getting away, and the egg breaks. And it turns out that this wasn't a real Fabergé egg. Instead, it had this weird list of people on it. And they meet for the exchange, and they're preparing to make it down when Gary arrives and reveals, no, this was all actually my game night. I found out about this, murder simulation thing. I figured out your brother was doing this. I'm tired of constantly getting froze up by you people. But they're like, okay, but what about the list? He's like, what list? They show him the list, and it's a list of names of people in the Witness Protection Program. And it's like, oh, wait, you mean this really was a mobster thing? And at that point, the Bulgarian mobster, played by Michael C. Hall, arrives and shoots Gary. Gary winds up living. And, yeah. It leads to the big scene you see at the airport in the trailer. Eventually, Max and Annie use the Stingray because the game was actually rigged for Max to win it. The last clue was look in your jacket pocket, and Max had the keys in his jacket pocket the whole time. And that's where the keys to the Stingray. So they take the Stingray, they use it, they crash it into the front wheel of the plane to keep it from taking off. Max manages to beat down the Bulgarian mobster while Annie tricks one guy into getting sucked into the engine intake. And that's not entirely how it ends. We then jump ahead 3 months. And Annie, there's another game night. Brooks has been under house arrest, basically. He, just a sec here. Yeah, Brooks has been under house arrest. He's hosting another game night. Like I said, he's under house arrest. But everything seems to be going fine. They're playing Pictionary, and Annie uses it to reveal that she is actually pregnant. As the story progressed, Max eventually came to terms with the idea that they can still have fun while having a child and nurturing that child's competitive streak. As this happens, though, Gary is also part of the crew, and as this is happening, we see that there's another kidnapping about to occur. And then the end credits roll, and we see Gary's elaborate plan to get back into game night. It's, like I said, it's kind of hard to go over jokes without going over the jokes and making them not seem as funny. A lot of the stuff in the trailer is still pretty funny. Like I said, Max getting shot. Annie trying to remove the bullet, only to basically she discovers that the bullet went clean through, and she's been hacking up her husband's arm to the point that his bone is sticking out. And then they both get dry heaves. The other scene is the scene where he bleeds on the dog because he gets his wound patched up enough. And they go to Gary's to try to get some information on this because they need a police computer to access the criminal database to figure out who all these people are, the criminals that are involved with Brooks are. And that's where he bleeds on Bastion, Gary's dog, while the others are playing Jenga. Yeah, like I said, that one doesn't quite work as well because, again, so much of that is in the trailer that, this is where he bleeds on the dog. Okay, yeah. The only real funny part is he tries to wash the dog off, and the dog shakes and just winds up spraying blood everywhere. And it turns out he also did this on. He also broke a small statue of. Part of the other plot, Gary's role is he's really obsessed with his ex-wife. Disturbingly so, he's basically stalking her, and they discover he has a shirt with her picture on it. He has a statue of her that Max breaks. So it just kind of fuels that Gary is crazy. Like I said, strong performances throughout. Clemens as Gary is good. Like I said, Bateman, McAdams, Kyle Chandler are all good. And I would say the drawback are some of the subplots are Ryan and Sarah's subplot about again him actually falling for the intelligent woman and her exactly kind of putting up with it, though also kind of falling for him. Like that's an okay one. But the baby subplot just really kind of drags a lot. The celebrity subplot with the Denzel thing, just, again, it's like, it's very one note. It doesn't really add to anything, but overall, the film is rather enjoyable, so I'm going to give it a B, like, maybe more like a B+. How about that? A B+. I can't quite get into A territory, again, just because the subplots do drag it a little bit. So that's it.
Tuesday, a marriage explodes when the captain's wife seeks satisfaction from an unsuspecting private.
I don't want you to play any games with me.
I'd like to.
For Love and Honor on a new night, Tuesday.
Okay, trailer time, and we're finally starting to get some new trailers here. So, first off, we have Gringo, which is about a man who goes to Mexico, who is sent to Mexico because his company has purchased the rights to a formula to make marijuana in pill form. And he winds up getting kidnapped by the Mexican drug cartel, and hilarity ensues. Actually, looks like it actually looks like a movie I kind of want to see. The problem is, it comes up the same day as A Wrinkle in Time, so it's probably going to be a coin flip as to which of those I wind up seeing. Maybe I might do A Wrinkle in Time, just because, again, that's the bigger movie. I'm not entirely sure. I might do, like I said, I don't know. It's going to be a coin toss. After that, we have The Leisure Seeker, which is a movie starring Donald Sutherland and Helen Mirren. They're obviously a couple. He is a Hemingway enthusiast, but he's developing dementia and he's having mind gaps. And so she wants to take him in an RV called The Leisure Seeker. Their RV they've called The Leisure Seeker, down to Key West to see Hemingway's house down there. Before his brain becomes too far gone. After that, we have Red Sparrow again, which is the movie we'll be seeing next, because that's really the only movie coming out next week. After that, we had the phone goes off. After that, we had the trailer for the Overboard remake with Anna Faris and other guy, Evan Longoria is in it. It's inverted from the original version with Goldie Hawn and Kurt Russell. In this case, Anna Faris is in the Goldie Hawn role, and it just looks kind of pointless. After that, we have The Quiet Place, again, the horror movie about creatures that attack those who make noise, so a family has to live in total silence as best they can. After that, we have Cock Blockers, or just Blockers, as pretty much every listing. Here's the thing. The logo is a rooster over the word Blockers. I think it's what the name of the movie is, okay? Anyway, starring John Cena, Leslie Mann, as parents who find out that her daughter and her friends are all planning to lose their virginity on prom night and set out to stop them. Hilarity ensues. After that, we have Badland Girl, which is a local movie that they made here in North Dakota, so that's kind of getting a precedent over other trailers. Okay, like I said, next movie review is going to be Red Sparrow. Next video up after this is going to be the Elimination Chamber recap and review. We're going to be starting Defenders and Punisher next on the Marvel Netflix catch-up. And next week will be the Lobo review for the Random Trade. See you all next time. Hey guys, is there a movie you want me to tackle? If it's some stinker like Baywatch or the Emoji Movie or something else, check out my Patreon at Sleepy Time for Cat Productions. See how you can make that happen.